All right. So today we're going to be talking about the water cycle. We dug into it a little bit on Thursday. We're going to dig a little bit deeper today in class. You were supposed to draw this picture in your notes and complete it from our recorded lesson on Thursday. If you did not get a chance to finish drawing that picture, this lesson is being recorded as well, and you'll need to finish this picture there. It's important for us to see that the water cycle shows us the law of convection. Yes, we want to remember that the law of convection states heat will always rise and cold will always sink. Can someone turn on their mic and let us know, why does heat rise and why does cold sink?
Because heat is less dense than the cold.
Very good. Is that Caleb?
Yes, ma'am.
Great job, Caleb. So when we're talking about that, we see heat rising here during evaporation and transpiration. Yeah, we see heat rising and we see cold sinking through precipitation. So it's important for us to understand that as we are watching this happen, we have to understand what these steps actually are. So let's go ahead and get to work today. In fourth grade, you were taught three main stages of the water cycle. The first stage was evaporation. Please write this down in your notes. Yes, evaporation is the first stage of our water cycle. Evaporation is when water is released or comes out of oceans, lakes, and streams, even puddles. Okay, that's where evaporation takes place, the release of water vapor or steam from bodies of water. Please write this down. Our second stage is condensation. According to our picture there, once that vapor reaches the top parts of our troposphere, the first layer of our atmosphere where weather happens, once that water vapor that was super hot reaches the top part of that troposphere, just like we saw in Miss Frizzle's class, that water vapor turns into ice crystals. Those ice crystals mix with dust and form clouds. So condensation would be our second step of our water cycle. And last but certainly not least, it's very important, precipitation would be our third stage. It's important for us to know that precipitation is when that rain falls. Evaporation, condensation, precipitation. Evaporation, condensation, clouds, precipitation. So when we're talking about precipitation, that's rain or snow. Remember, precipitation is going to fall from the top parts of the troposphere, and it's going to fall down as cleaned, filtered water. Yeah, the water cycle is our Earth's natural filtration system. I'll give you a second to finish writing these notes down. Take another minute to finish up. Okay, guys, so let's go ahead and finish up where we are. So when we're talking about the stages of this water cycle, we want to remember you may find that some articles that you read may not say that evaporation happens first. No matter, if you do find that it doesn't say that the water cycle happens first, you want to, or the evaporation happens first, you want to remember that these three stages happen in a cycle. So they're all dependent on one another. They depend on one another. In other words, if I didn't have evaporation, I couldn't have condensation. If I didn't have those clouds being created, I couldn't have precipitation. All three of these major stages depend on one another. But let's add to our knowledge of the water cycle today. Let's add to our knowledge of the water cycle today. In your notes, I'd like you to write a star statement that says, the sun drives the water cycle. In other words, the sun powers the water cycle. And doesn't that make sense? When we see evaporation being the first step in our water cycle, the first stage, what does it take for that water to get heated? Isn't it heat from the sun? So the sun starts this entire cycle and keeps that cycle going. Please start drawing this picture in your notes. You'll also find this picture in your Schoology, and we're going to talk about your drawing it in class today or after class today, okay? This picture is showing us something called transpiration. In your notes, the question that you should write down here is, what is transpiration? Just like when you and I sweat, when humans sweat, we call it perspiration. When plants sweat or water is released from the leaves of plants, that's called transpiration. Transpiration is the releasing of water vapor from plants. So it's important for us to know, star statement in our notes, transpiration happens during the same time as evaporation, because both of those stages need heat from the sun. So we want to make sure we understand at the same time when water vapor is rising from the ocean, plants are also releasing water from their leaves. You know that when it rains, that water is soaked up from the ground through the plant's roots. That water travels up the stem, and then there's little bitty holes or pores inside of that plant's leaves that release steam or water into our troposphere. So transpiration is happening at the same time as evaporation because both of those stages of the water cycle need heat. So it would make sense that both of those stages happen at the same time. You want to make sure you're getting the words written down right now in your notes, and you're going to work on that picture after class today. I want that picture to be perfect in your notes for you to be able to study it later on. So you want to make sure you're getting the notes written down right now, and the picture will be available later on. And this lesson is being recorded if Miss Neville goes too fast today. Uh-oh. Sorry, guys. So where we're going to be picking up in our notes tomorrow, please write down this question. What happens after precipitation? According to our notes, we learned that precipitation is where is our last stage of the water cycle. That's what we learned in 4th grade science. But what actually happens after precipitation? Something amazing called runoff. And we're going to start learning about another new stage of the water cycle during tomorrow's class. Okay, we want to remember that we have a regular schedule. Aiken Innovate has a regular schedule this week. So Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we have regular class. Okay, we have regular class on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Thursday and Friday, we're off for our Thanksgiving fall break. Now, let's talk about what's going to be expected of you when we end class today. Let's talk about what's going to be expected of you during our class, after class today.